Hey guys, a lot of you know that I've been exclusively a bow hunter for 32 years, and for all of that time I've done all the work on my own bows. I get a lot of questions around how to set up a bow, how to maintain it, things like that. So today we're going to show you some of the basics. How to tie in Nocksets, how to tie on a D-loop, and how to serve in a peep sight. Stick around, we'll answer all those questions and more right after this. Okay, this is something I like to do before I change out a string. Even though I've got the factory specs, I like to go through and write down everything the way it was, because this bow was shooting just lights out. And so before I change it out, I went through, and here my A to A is 32 3/8. My brace height is 7 1/4. My peep height, so I actually measure from my peep height to the bottom of the cam right there. Bottom of the top cam is 8 inches exactly. That's centered, the center of that peep, because you know, obviously you could go here or there. I go to the center where it crosses that string to there is 8 inches exactly. What we want to do is just make sure that everything's lining up properly. It's back routed the same way it was. The Y cables are in the end of the axles properly. Everything's looking good. Go ahead and back it off. And you can see I hold my hand and allow gradual tension to ease back into the string until it reaches brace. Then I grab it so it won't fall, obviously. Okay. So man, that's a good looking set of strings. You know, I've used Vapor Trail for 23, 24 years. They just settle in really super quickly. My peep never moves after a while, and man, they last through some rugged conditions. That set of strings I just took off there might have been 6 years old, 7, and I go through briars and stuff like that with my bow. So it was well past time. But what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to check the specs, see how close we are to what it was. Okay guys, we just took our bow out of the press. I'm just going to sit it right here. And the first thing I want to do is I just want to see how close we came to the specs of the old string. Again, that string had several thousand, if not tens of thousands of shots on it. But we did record the specs. It was 32 3/8. And we're at 32 3/8. Spot on. And I haven't made any twists, no tweaks, nothing. I'm going to check brace real quick. That was 7 1/4. And you look there, we're at 7 1/4. So pretty doggone good for a strings just out of the package. Haven't twisted, nothing. We ought to be really close to the performance that we were getting before, if not better, because it's a brand new set of strings, right? And the peace of mind that goes along with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to slap this thing in our vise, and we're going to start working on tying in the Nocksets, a D-loop, and eventually come back and put in the peep sight. We're going to show you exactly how I do that. Not going to get into the tuning process yet. This is just the initial bow setup. This is the main focus of this video, is how to tie in Nocksets, how to affix a D-loop, and then how to tie in a peep sight. So let's get to it and show you how I do it. Okay guys, so what we've done is we just took our bow and put it in the bow vise here, and we're going to start working on it from here. The only additional thing that I did off camera is I went ahead and tied a Nockset in here right below the serving on my down cable, and then I affixed the drop cord with a D-loop. I'm going to show you how to do both of those when I show you how to tie in Nocksets and a D-loop on the string itself. So the reason I had to do that is I wanted to go ahead and get that in so that I could get my rest in the up position. That's very important, because that's how we're going to know where to tie our Nocksets in. And then the tool I use to know that with is just a simple set of levels. These were like, I don't know, 30 bucks or so. It's been quite some time since I purchased them. They may be a little bit more expensive than that, but just 2 little sets of levels. These are from a company called RS Archery. You can probably find them on Lancaster Archery, something like that. Google bow and arrow levels. You probably come up with them really quickly. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that our bow is perfectly, and I just literally put it in there like that. Look at that. We got really lucky. Let me go ahead and take it off kilter, so you'll see what it looks like if I take it off. I just literally slapped it in there. So see, it's just like a carpenter's level. If I move that, you'll see it we want that bubble obviously right between the lines right there, okay? And then we've also got this is a two-way level. We've got up and down. We also have our we've got horizontal as well as vertical. And what we're going to do is we're going to move the vise a little bit that way. So now we've got the bubble centered right here between these two lines. We've got the bubble centered here between these two lines. So now we know our bow is both horizontal and vertical, plumb, and I don't know, it's all level, right? Plumb and level. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take the arrow that I shoot out of my bow. What we're going to do is we're going to affix this level to it. And I can tell you as a starting point, for most bow techs, I was on our staff for years and years and years, helped with a little bit of marketing, shooting prototypes, things like that. They start off very well with an exact level arrow. That's just a really good point to start your tuning process with them. And what we're going to do is, the way you can tell if your arrow is level is actually put a level on your arrow. And that's where we're going to tie our Nocksets in, okay? So obviously there's nothing to hold it into place right now. So we're going to tie and you'll see that the weight of the arrow, 125 grains out front, you know, obviously this arrow's got about 11% FOC, forward of center, plus with a little bit of weight of the level, it wants to kick up. So we're going to tie the top Nockset in first, slide it down in place so that it will hold level. So let's show you how we do that. Okay guys, so we've got BCY knock tying thread here, and I'm just going to take a length of it, reach over and grab my razor blade. There's no set amount, just anything, any length like that will do, okay? Then I'm going to take my wax dental floss, pull out a length here, just double it over. All I'm doing is just making a loop here, double it in half. And the big thing is I want that loop up there at the top. Okay, we're going to come over here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loosely tie on my top Nockset. And I'm going to grab my reading glasses so I can see this really well. So I'm going to pinch between my thumb and forefinger this dental floss loop. We're going to leave a long tag in, and I'm putting that in that same space that I'm grabbing the dental floss with. I'm leaving, you've got the tag end just hanging there. I'm going to pull down with the knock tying thread, and I'm going to loosely, the key word here is loosely, wrap and hold. 1, 2, 3, that's actually 2, there's 3, 4 times around. And if you see that the wraps get too tight, push back against it with that middle finger. And then I'm going to take this bottom tag in and go up. I'm going to move that tag in. I'm going to go up through the dental floss, grab it, and I'm just going to pull gently and pull that tag in, let go of the one that's going to pull through. I'm going to pull that gently through those loops I created. That is literally, that's our Nockset right there. Now I've done it loosely so I can adjust it up and down the string. That's very important that you do it loosely enough to adjust it. Okay. Now I'm going to take my arrow, clip the knock onto the serving, and I'm going to hold it until I get this bubble level, this level in the bubble exactly between the lines. At that point, if you focus here, you'll see that bubble is perfectly level. Right there. I'm going to make sure it's in contact with the Nockset, and then I'm going to slide it down and remove it. I slid it down so I don't move it. At this point, I can grab this Nockset and start tightening it. And before I get it too tight, I'm going to double check my work, because once this thing cinches down, it will not move. You see, I need to move it just a bit more down. maybe even a tad more down before I totally cinch it down. There. See, that bubble is perfectly between those lines now. I'm going to move my knock down, move it off to the side. And the reason I left such a long tag ends is so I can wrap them around my fingers. And I'm going to pull. I'm pulling as tight as I can, guys. You don't want that knock set to move a bit. At this point, it's got it. The top knock is done. We're going to double check the bubbles in there. It's not going to move. I'm just going to, I'm meticulous and anal about this though. I'm going to pull and move, okay? Again, you can double check one last time if you want to. Perfect. It didn't move. Okay. Now we're going to take our razor and we're going to trim off and leave just a 1/8 of an inch, being sure, obviously, not to cut your string. So cut away from the string. There we go. Now, remember we did 4 wraps on top. Believe it or not, you would think, and I'm getting a new fresh piece of dental floss, guys, because that old one, it kind of mangles them up when you pull them through those loops. And I'm going to get another piece of knot tying thread. You would think, well, your arrow is perfectly centered between the cams and everything. I'm just going to put 4 wraps on the bottom. But I found over years and years of experience and working with other very good bow technicians that if you put 4 wraps on top and go in with 8 wraps on the bottom, it will perfectly center the pull on your D-loop. And we'll show you that in a little bit. So again, 1 wrap, 2 wraps. Sometimes you have to keep pushing back so it doesn't tighten down too hard. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push. I'm pushing back that way with my finger a little bit so that I make sure that those coils are not too tight. And then I'm going to put that tag in through the loop in the dental floss. Reach down, grab the dental floss, start gently pulling it through, and pulled it right on through. Now, see, I still got the adjustability. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to put my arrow back in. It's going to rest against the top loop, and I'm going to slide this bottom knock set that we just created up to gently sandwich that knock. I don't want it super tight so it's too tight and pinches the knock, but I definitely don't want any extra play there. I want it right up against that bottom. At that point, I'm going to grab the tag ends just like I did before and pull that tight. Now, if you're asking a question, why in the world are you tying these knock sets in if you're going to put a D-loop? Isn't that all you need? Well, guys, I can tell you over the years, you'll wear out a D-loop way quicker than you will the string or the knock sets. If you tie in the knock sets ahead of or prior to tying on your D-loop, anytime you need to change out a D-loop, you never change the tune of your bow. This will dictate or determine the tune of your bow. I can change out a knock set at will 10 times a day in the dark whenever I need to. I can change out my D-loop and it will never mess with the tune of my bow because my D-loop sits on the outside of these knock sets. We'll show you that when we're done. That's why I tie in knock sets ahead of putting on a D-loop. So again, we're going to double check our level here. We're perfectly level. Does that mean this bow is going to be absolutely tuned when we take it outside and shoot it and I won't have to do anything else? Maybe, maybe not. I might have to do, I will always broadhead tune my bows. I'll walk back to them for center shot. I do various different methods of tuning my bow to make sure that I'm getting perfect broadhead flight, even though I hunt with a lot of mechanicals these days. But this is a great starting point. So I can take the arrow off. We're going to pick up our razor blade again. fact, before I do that, I'm going to, one last time, before I cut these tag ends, I'm just going to loop them around my finger and just give it as good a pull as I can right there, right? Make sure it is cinched down super tight. I'm going to leave about 1/8, cut away from the string. Leave about 1/8, cut away from the string. At this point, guys, that's the hard part. The easy part is tying the D-loop. What I'm going to do ahead of tying the D-loop, though, is take your lighter and rotate it so that the tag end is sticking out toward you, and burn it so that it gets going, and then I actually smear the fire part, the burning part, I smear it into the Nockset. So you can see this, and we'll do a close-up here of this one and show you. Okay, so we've got our tag end sticking out. I'm going to light it, and as the Nockset thread burns up, as it gets really close, I'm going to take my finger and smear it into the Nockset. So here we go. We're going to light it. It's getting close. I'm going to take it and smear it up there. Okay, we're going to do it again. With this one, I'm going to rotate it. I like to have it on the outside, so I've got easy access to it. You'll see it burn into that little ball. I'm going to take it and smear it into it. Same thing, I want it sticking out so my flame can stay as far away from the serving as it can. Get it going this way. Smear it up into it. Our Nocksets are done, guys. I tie my D-loops quite differently than the vast majority of archers do. I'm going to show you a little trick that's worked for me for years and years and years. So I've got a ton of D-loop material I bought over the years here. I'm going to do this one in red. I love doing my I've got a red Peep here somewhere. This bow has little red accessories on it. That's just kind of what I'm going to do here. But so I do not pre-cut my D-loops, and that's where I differ from a lot of people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a full length, whatever this is. If this was 3 foot, I wouldn't cut it. I get the maximum number of loops out of a D-loop material that I possibly can. I do not waste anything in creating them, and I don't have to guess what it's going to be. I don't come out with extra short ones, extra long ones. They're always exactly what I want them to be. So I'm going to mushroom out this tip of the D-loop just like this. Then what I do is I take my lighter and I start slowly rotating it over the heat, trying not to burn it as much as I can. If it catches on fire, it's not a huge deal. But what I'm trying to do is mushroom out and let that melt into a ball. And that's what's going to prohibit this D-loop from slipping through. I'm going to double check it here. We're getting close, but a little bit more heat. I don't want to see strands that are separated in there. I want that to melt into one continuous ball. And if it gets a little wonky on you or oblong, I'll melt the side that's oblong so I can get it to melt into a ball. Okay, that actually looks good. Now here again, something I do different. I do not press that and flatten that ball out. And I want that big ball there because again, that ball is what's securing my D-loop. So I want that to be as big and bulbous as possible. Then what I'm going to do is turn this, and I'm going to form an upside down U with my small tag end on the left side. So again, all I'm doing is taking it, grabbing it, forming an upside down U, put my small tag end on the left side. And it does not matter how long, this tag end can be this long, it can be this, it doesn't matter, whatever you're comfortable working with. And then I slide it under my string on the bottom side. This is my bottom Nockset. Remember, I've got 4 and 8 4 coils and 8 coils. 4 coils on my top, 8 coils on the bottom. I'm going to slide it under. So all I've done is slide under. I'm going to take this bulbous knot and just go over and hold it in place. I'm going to take whatever length I've got left over and the other tag end and go through that loop as well. And I'm going to start pulling that and cinching it tight. You'll see I'm kind of letting it rotate over, and I'm actually going to feed it through Start letting it close down until I get that ball at the bottom. And I'm working it with my fingers up to that knock set and letting the ball come out. That is a nice D loop right there. Okay, let's back, before I super cinch this down, it's ready to cinch down right now. But let's go back and show you this just to make sure you got it. Because a lot of people get hung up on this. We're going to form a U, hold it upside down with a tag in on that side. I'm going to take it in my right hand, go underneath. I'm going to stick the ball through there. Take the tag in, go back through. And then I'm going to slowly start feeding it through itself until I get to that point. I'm going to work it down there. And then I'm going to start tightening and cinching it up. At this point, a lot of times I'll grab a mini mag light, wrap it around, just to give myself something to hold on to. And I want to grab this and literally pull as tight as I can, guys. That thing won't move at this point, okay? That is the bottom of my D-loop. I'm going to come over. Remember we went under the string last time? I'm going to go over. I'm going to come. So what I'm doing, because I know my hand's in the way, I'm going over and I'm bringing the tag in through the big D-loop this way. I'm going to pull it all the way through and let it hang. And at this point, I'm going to tighten my D-loop down to about what I want. I can figure out how long I want my D-loop right now. And that's, I actually like a fairly short D-loop. Then I'm going to go back over and through and pull that tight. So what we've done, guys, is it's very important that at your D-loop, if you went under on this one, you go on top on that one. So that balances out the pull of the string. And eventually I will slide this knot around so that my D-loop sits directly behind the arrow. But at this point, I'm going to pull fairly tight. I'm going to grab my pliers, pull it out, make sure I've got enough. I want to make sure that I've got enough space for my ears of my knock to sit there, clipped on, and get the jaws of my release in there. Those are the two critical things, and I do not want them to touch. So I'm lengthening my D-loop just slightly to make sure that it will do that. And I just know from experience by looking at it, that's going to be really, really super close. It's going to be right there. That's about how long I want my D-loop. I don't like a really extra long D-loop because I'm losing power stroke. If I keep my draw length, my anchor point the same place, and if you have a really long D-loop, you're losing power stroke. In a sense, I know it's semantics, but you're losing draw length. You're losing your power stroke. So I want my D-loop as short as possible. At this point, I'm going to grab my razor blade. We'll leave about 3/16 of an inch or so. I'm going to cut across there. You can see we did not waste any D-loop material at all. I can hang this back on. It's ready. I can probably get, who knows, 10 more D-loops out of that material. I'm going to start mushrooming this out. And I want to make sure this is mushroomed all the way to the knot. This square knot, the D-loop knot that we tied on here. I'm going to grab my lighter. I'm going to rotate it over so that I'm burning from below this. I don't have to worry about burning my brand new string. I'm paying very close attention to make sure that I'm melting those strands into a ball. And I want it to flow like lava into a nice solid round ball. Okay, I've got that pretty much down into the knot area. I pulled so tight, I want to rotate that up. Okay. So what I'm going to do, guys, is now I'm going to check my work here. That's pretty much it. We've got our Nocksets tied on. We've got our D-loop tied on. And again, if for some reason this D-loop ever breaks, gets frayed, I get cut, whatever, I can untie this D-loop. My Nocksets are there to keep my tune, because that's what's really supporting my bow, my arrow. But you can see I've got enough room here behind my ears, and I don't know if I've got one of my releases here. I do. So first of all, we're going to check. Look how level that arrow is sitting. Perfectly, because of the way that we tied in our Nocksets. Did our top one first, slid it down, let the arrow rest against it. Our tune is absolutely perfect to begin with. I'm not saying that is a 100% tuned bow. We will definitely have to go through those motions. But as a starting point, as a basis, we've got a really, really good starting point. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I kind of did that by feel a little bit as far as the length of my D-loop. But let me show you. I shoot a Scott Wildcat release, has really ultra short jaws. I have plenty of room to, this nock is fully seated. In fact, I just activated the, if I pull any harder, it's going to activate the nocturnal. There you go. See, it's fully seated. I can clip on and it's still not touching. And at this point, I've got as short a D-loop as I feel comfortable with without pinching my nock. Okay guys, one thing I want to point out after drawing the bow, and it's kind of put a, an indentation, kind of put a little bit of memory in this brand new D-loop. Look at where the pull point of the D-loop is and how exactly in line it is with the ears and of the nock and the shaft itself. So that's why we put a little bit more. In fact, I put 8 wraps of the Nockset below and 4 on top, because it literally gives an exact pull right behind it. You wouldn't think that. You'd think that it would throw it off kilter. But when I started working on my own bows, in 1990, what's that, 32 years ago or so, I started consulting at the time with some of the top bow technicians on the internet, on online forums and stuff, and this is the way that we devised to put it and center an absolute perfect pull behind your arrow. So try it. If it works for you, great. Always tinker with your bows. I highly suggest get to know your equipment really well. This is what works extremely well for me, especially on my bows. But what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to go out and we're going to shoot this into a target probably 20 or 30 times. That was literally the first time I pulled this bow back since I put new strings on it that you just saw me. So we're going to shoot it 20 or 30 times, let things settle in a little bit. Then we'll come back and install the Peep. Okay guys, here's how I set my Peep height. Remember, we measured it on our old string before we took it off. That's always important. And so what I'm going to do is I just took a piece of that Nockset thread and I'm going to tie a knot here. I'm going to double it, but I'm not going to make it super tight. I'm doubling it so it has some mass to it, like that. But I want it to be able to slide up and down the string. And then what we measured was 8 inches to the bottom of the top cam was the center of that Peep. So if I go down here to 8 inches, look at that, I pretty much almost guessed it there. But I'm going to go to the top cam right there, 8 inches. It's going to be about that. So what I want to do, if I can get this off without, because I didn't tie that very tight. Hopefully it doesn't fall down too much. But that came from the factory just to separate the strings. What I'm going to do here is I want to draw my bow. And I know you probably shouldn't really draw it without an arrow too much. Doesn't really matter. I'm aiming into my wall anyway. But it might keep it from dry firing a bow. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to come to full draw, find my anchor, close my eyes. And what I want to do is when I open my eye that I aim with, I want that knot to be exactly in line with my Peep housing. That's going to let me know that that's where I need to tie my Peep in. So I'm going to come to full draw, anchor, and if that knot So that knot is sitting exactly in the center of that peep housing. So knowing that, what I'm going to do, let me take my hair off. And it helps getting that measurement, right? Because I know exactly where to go. So I'm actually going to take a Sharpie, guys. I'm going to mark right where that knot was. I'll take my razor blade. This is the delicate part, guys. You always want to be careful working with a razor blade around your string. Just paid $125 or whatever you did for your string. Be careful with it. And this is why the factory Vapor Trail in this instance supplies this with you. Just pull this down to get to where that Sharpie mark is, and now I've got this to separate my strands. So I'm going to lay this peep sight down. You can see I'm separating the brown and the white, and that's exactly where they had put that there. And we're going to insert the peep. And the way I always, this is, you know, people learn the alphabet and really they learn things differently, right? The way I always learn which direction a peep sight goes is if I'm holding my bow in front of me, the bottom of it is pointing out past my feet. So if I'm holding my bow out in front of me, the bottom of this peep is pointing out past my feet. It's just a kind of a weird thing, but you know, because you could put it in the other way and it would be angled that way, right? So again, look, we've got this peep centered right where that Sharpie mark is, right there. Okay, we're going to grab our knot tying thread again. Doesn't really matter, I'm just going to pull a bunch off. Okay guys, we're going to take the tag end of this knot tying thread and we're going to insert it right up through the middle of that V, and we're going to kind of wedge it just enough so it will lay down, and then I'm going to wrap over a couple times here just to secure this tag end. Okay, and I'm going to wrap, that's 4 times. At this point I'm going to pull kind of tight and grab this tag end and double it back over and finish wrapping 4 more. That's 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we've got 8 wraps in total. I can pull that fairly tight with the tag end sticking out of 4 of those. I can slide that down just a bit. I'm going to go around 1 strand of that string, pull it tight and kind of lock it back. So, and push those together, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn that off just like we did on the Nocksets. And at this point I can go around, and I've got a lot of string here to work with, guys, because I want to give myself extra at the end. I'm going to start making coils up to that peep sight. I'll do a couple more to get up there to that peep. Okay, we're basically to the peep. So at this point, see that groove there? We're going to go inside that groove and go, let me get this tag in out of the way. We're going in that groove around twice. Okay, now we're going to come back. We went up the white end. We're going to go down the brown strand. You can take your fingernail, kind of move them out, We can even count them. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's do one more wrap. Okay, we're probably pretty much even there. So now I'm going to go around the whole thing 4 times. There's 1 complete wrap, 2, 3, and 4. So now I'm going to keep tension on that, guys, and I'm going to just go on over. I'm going to back wrap this inside, going back toward the peep. There's 2, 3, 4 complete wraps. Keeping tension on it, and I'm going to pull and lay this long tag in right back along the top. And then I'm just going to come over that tag in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to hold it and pull that on through. I'm going to slide this up. I can pull that super tight. Now that is how we finish off a serving. It's inside that. Notice these are really close to about the same size. I think I got 1 extra turn on that one. Might have got 5 instead of 4. But all we got to do is cut this. We're going to take our cigarette lighter. We're going to grab the tension here, put tension on the string, lower the string back down to brace. So guys, that's how I set up my bows. Hope this little lesson has helped you. If you got any questions, let me know. But we want to show you this because I get a lot of questions. People know that I've been exclusively a bow hunter for 32 years. I work on my own bows. I think that turned out to be a phenomenal looking job, guys. You got tied in Nocksets. It's the lightest way to do it to keep your tune. If you need to replace a D-loop out in the field, if you're on an out-of-state hunt, you don't have to worry about losing a tune of your bow. It is absolutely the best way to do it, guys. Hope that helps you. We'll catch you on the next one around.